My family invited me to drop by their anniversary dinner. When I arrived, they'd already ordered for 12 and told the server, "He'll just sit at the bar." I smiled, walked to the front, and said, "Actually, I paid the deposit. Please close the check under their table." 20 minutes later, my mom yelled, $11, $8.50 for pasta? The invitation came 5 days before the dinner, a group text from my sister Amanda, short and clipped like always. "Hey Bree, Mom and Dad's anniversary dinner is Friday at 7 o'clock. Swing by if you're free. No time, no place, not even a 'we'd love to see you.'" Just that passive-aggressive softness they've mastered, the kind that sounds polite but leaves no doubt about your place in the pecking order. I stared at it for a minute, thought about just ignoring it, then figured screw it, let's see how bad it gets this time. It had been 10 months since the hospital incident, the day everything shifted. My nephew Noah had a seizure during a family cookout. I was the first one to notice, everyone else was in the backyard, half drunk or chasing kids. I found him in the hallway, barely breathing, eyes wide open, shaking violently. I called 911, stayed with him until the paramedics arrived. He lived, thank God, but the fallout was absurd. See, I had also been watching my cousin's daughter that day. I left her in her playpen when I rushed to Noah. My aunt, who hadn't even shown up until after the ambulance left, went ballistic. Said I abandoned her kid, said I only pretended to help Noah to look like a hero, that I endangered everyone. And just like that, I was the scapegoat. I offered explanations. I even apologized for how chaotic things were. Didn't matter. From that moment, I was unofficially the problem in the family. They never said it to my face, but the tone shifted. I got left out of messages. Invites went from "you're coming, right?" to "if you're free," like this one. Still, I decided to go, not to make peace, just to show up. I arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes early, wore a plain button-down, no jacket, brought a gift, a framed photo I'd found of my parents from their first trip to Italy, something from a dusty box in the garage that I figured they'd forgotten. I told the hostess I was with the Anderson party. She checked the reservation book. "Oh, are you Brian?" "Yeah, they've already been seated, but they mentioned you'd be sitting at the bar." I paused. "They said what?" "They said the table's full, but you're welcome too." I looked past her. There they were, all 12 of them, seated comfortably at a long table in the corner. Full drinks, bread baskets, laughter. My seat wasn't forgotten. I was excluded on purpose. I walked over, half expecting one of them to say they were kidding. Amanda made eye contact, gave a quick wave. My mom didn't even acknowledge me. My dad finally said, "Hey, bud. Yeah, sorry, table was tight. Hope you don't mind grabbing a seat at the bar." No apology, no space, no shame. I just smiled and walked away. Back up front, I asked to speak with the manager. A week ago, my mom had asked me to handle the deposit for the reservation. Said their card was maxed after their vacation. I paid it, $2.50, didn't even hesitate. When the manager came over, I showed her the email. "Charge everything to the Anderson table," I said. "That's the one I placed the deposit on." She gave me a look but nodded. I ordered a glass of wine at the bar and waited. 20 minutes passed. Then I heard it, my mom's voice cutting through the low music and quiet clatter of plates. $1,850 for pasta. It echoed. People turned, heads swiveled. I just kept sipping my wine. I didn't need a seat at their table. They just bought themselves the whole evening. From the bar, I could hear the noise level at their table slowly shifting from laughter to confusion. The kind of confusion that turns into frustration when no one knows who's paying. I stayed where I was, sipping my wine like I had all night to burn. Then the shouting started. $1,850. It was my mom. She wasn't just surprised, she was offended. I didn't turn around. I could hear chairs scraping back, silverware clinking against plates as they froze mid-meal. Someone asked if it was a mistake. Someone else said there had to be a glitch in the system. I didn't say anything. Didn't even smile. Not yet. Amanda came over, jaw tight. I saw her reflection in the mirror behind the bar before she tapped my arm. "Did you tell them to put the whole bill on our table?" "I did." "You're serious? They're the Anderson party, aren't they?" Her face moved through a range of reactions. Shock, offense, then that familiar indignation, the one she inherited directly from Mom. This isn't how you handle things, Brian. No, you're right. Usually I just shut up and pay for things quietly, then get asked to sit alone like I'm someone's ex. She didn't even try to argue with that. Instead, she walked back to the table, muttering something under her breath. I saw her leaning down to whisper to Mom, who just threw her hands up like she was being mugged in broad daylight. And still, not one of them walked over to say they'd made a mistake. Not a single sorry. Just panic over the bill, because the only thing worse than including me was having to pay for their own fun. The manager reappeared beside me a minute later. Quiet, professional. Just letting you know, she said, they're aware of the bill and are arranging payment. I nodded. They seem surprised. I'm not. I finished my wine, took my time paying for it, ordered a second glass just to be petty. From the corner of my eye, I could see the family trying to calculate how to divide it. Mom had a notepad out, actually writing down numbers. Dad was talking to the server with his wallet open but not actually handing over a card. I stayed another 15 minutes. Then my dad walked over. You made your point, he said. I didn't look up. Which one? That you're still holding a grudge. I looked at him now. You excluded me on purpose. You couldn't even pretend to keep a seat open. I was invited like a stranger. You were invited. You chose to cause a scene. I laughed. I chose to pay for your celebration. You chose to tell the server I'd sit at the bar. We didn't think you'd show. There it was. The truth. Not an accident, not a miscommunication. They genuinely thought I wouldn't show up because I was supposed to stay away, because that's what I'd been trained to do since the hospital incident. Keep my distance, be grateful for scraps. I stood up. Enjoy your anniversary, Dad. He muttered something about, we'll talk later. But I was already walking out. The air outside was sharp and cold, but it felt good after the heat of the restaurant. I didn't rush. I walked a few blocks, got in my car, and sat there. And here's the part that still gets me. I didn't do any of this to hurt them. I did it because I was tired of pretending like their behavior was okay. But I knew what was coming next, because with them, being embarrassed in public is the one sin that never gets forgiven. The fallout wouldn't be quiet. It was just getting started. The fallout didn't wait long. I woke up the next morning to a phone lighting up like it was on fire. 23 messages, most of them from Amanda, the rest a mix of cousins, aunts, and 2 obligatory ones from Mom that somehow managed to sound both disappointed and dramatic in under 10 words. The first from Amanda just said, was that really necessary? Another, you humiliated them, Brian. I didn't reply. Not yet. By lunchtime, the calls started, Amanda first, then Mom, then Dad, all going to voicemail. Then a cousin I barely speak to texted, yo dude, what happened last night? I heard your mom looked like she was going to throw a plate. There it was. They weren't upset because of the money, not really. They were upset because they lost control in front of people. For the first time in a long time, they couldn't spin the story their way. And the worst part for them. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't made a scene. I just let the receipt speak for itself. By late afternoon, Amanda finally sent a real text, we need to talk. I mean it. I waited a full day before I responded. One line, talk about what? That I paid for the dinner you said I wasn't invited to. No reply. Then hours later, you made everyone feel awful. You don't do that to family. And FYI, they put part of the bill on my card. You owe me $300. There it was, the shift from guilt to debt. I didn't argue. I pulled up the emailed receipt, checked the totals, and Venmo'd her $300 with the note. Done. Now we're even. 3 minutes later she sent. That's not the point. I didn't answer. I knew what she meant. The point was that I was supposed to keep taking the hits. I was supposed to accept being treated like the outsider, the spare, the helper, the guy who steps up but never gets a share. But the second I stopped playing along, I became the problem. Over the next week, it escalated. I wasn't told about Jake's graduation dinner. A mutual family friend asked if I was excited to go. When I told her I hadn't heard about it, she hesitated and said, oh, I think they just assumed you wouldn't want to come after everything. Then Amanda started posting group family photos on social media. Everyone smiling, arms around each other. Family means everything, the captions read. I wasn't in a single one. I stayed quiet. 3 days later, I mailed Mom and Dad a check for $250, the reservation deposit. No note, no drama, just a small envelope with a check and a post-it that said, "No hard feelings." It was cashed within 48 hours. Then came the silence. No more texts, no calls. Just cold, strategic exclusion. It wasn't enough for them to ignore me. They needed me to know I was being ignored, to feel it. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. Because after that check cleared, they didn't let it go. They doubled down. And what came next was nothing short of a campaign. They weren't done with me, they were going to fix me, set an example, teach me my place. And they'd spend the next month making it personal. It started with a phone call at work. My manager waved me into his office, something between a frown and an awkward smile on his face. He shut the door, leaned against his desk and said, "Hey Brian. Kind of a weird one, but I figured you should know. Someone called the front desk, said they were a relative, claimed they were concerned about my mental state, that I'd been acting out, possibly struggling with boundaries, and might need support." My manager said the woman didn't give her name but sounded like an overly concerned aunt. I didn't even need to guess. It was Aunt Mara, that's her signature move. Planting seeds, acting like she's doing it out of love while steering the narrative wherever she wants. She's been doing it since I was a teenager. I explained the situation to my boss in the most neutral, professional way I could. Gave him a short version of the family dinner debacle. He raised an eyebrow at the bill total, chuckled, and said, "Man, that's one expensive bowl of spaghetti." I laughed with him, but the truth was, it shook me. They weren't just venting anymore, they were trying to smear me. Over the next few days, I started hearing things through the grapevine. A cousin in Seattle messaged me out of nowhere, "Dude, what's going on with you and the family? Your mom called my mom and said you sabotaged the anniversary dinner." I texted back, "Did she mention I wasn't even given a seat?" He didn't reply. 2 days later, I got a package at my apartment. No return address. I opened it up, and it was an old family photo album I hadn't seen in years, a bunch of pictures of me as a kid, me and Amanda, me and my parents at the lake, Halloween costumes, birthday cakes. Taped to the front page was a yellow sticky note, "This is the family you turned your back on." No name, no explanation. A week after that, someone left a flyer for a therapist in my mailbox. Folded in half, no envelope, handwritten on the back, "Consider it, please." I knew the handwriting, Mom. The campaign had a theme now. I wasn't wrong. I was broken. Mentally unstable. Damaged. And instead of facing that, I was lashing out and punishing the people who loved me most. It would have been almost impressive if it wasn't so transparent. Then Amanda texted again. She'd stayed mostly quiet since I paid her back. "You could have just said something. You didn't have to pull a stunt." That's what she thought it was, a stunt. As if paying for a dinner I was excluded from, that I'd literally put the deposit on, was the move of an unhinged sibling looking for drama. I didn't reply. Instead, I mailed her a second check, another $300, just in case she thought I was still in her debt. In the memo line, I wrote, "So there's no confusion." 3 days later, I got a screenshot from my cousin Josh. It was a post Amanda made in her Instagram story, just text on a black background. "Some people will weaponize kindness and call it fairness. Watch your back." It was clearly about me. But what they didn't realize was that I wasn't interested in winning. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just wanted distance, peace. And they couldn't stand that, because I wasn't yelling, I wasn't fighting. I was calm, measured, silent. And that was more dangerous to them than any shouting match, because when you stop reacting, people start wondering what they did to make you go quiet. And that silence, it's contagious. The silence didn't last long. About a week after Amanda's passive-aggressive story post, I got a message from my mom. Just 3 words, "You've made enemies." No context, no follow-up. I stared at it for a while, like it was some cartoon villain line. Then I put the phone down and went back to my coffee. The thing was, she wasn't wrong. The family had turned it into something else now, not just a feud, not even a grudge. This was a coordinated effort to punish me. A few cousins had stopped responding to messages. An uncle who used to text memes every other day went radio silent. One night, my friend Marcy, who's close with my cousin Danielle, told me over dinner, "Just so you know, they're saying you're trying to divide the family, that you want people to choose sides." I wasn't, but they did. It got worse at work. Another call came in, this time to HR. Someone claimed I'd been expressing instability and had recent outbursts. My manager had to sit down with me again, this time more serious. He said they were required to log the complaint, even though nothing about my behavior matched the description. I knew it was coming from them. They were playing the long game now, hoping they could pressure me into apologizing by making my life difficult in every other direction. I still didn't respond. Then the kicker. One Friday afternoon, I got an envelope in the mail. Inside, a handwritten letter from my dad. The tone was cold, businesslike. He said I'd embarrassed the family, humiliated my mother, and caused irreparable damage to relationships that were already strained due to past incidents. Then, near the bottom, a line that stopped me. If your intention was to sever ties, consider it done. Don't come to Thanksgiving, don't come to Christmas, and don't come back asking for forgiveness when this all catches up to you. I read it once, then again. Then I folded it, put it in a drawer, and sat on my couch for a long time. It wasn't that I was hurt. Not exactly. It was that after everything, they were still trying to rewrite it. Not one of them had said, "We should have saved you a seat." Not one had said, "You were right to be upset." They were so desperate to protect their version of the story, they were willing to burn me out of it entirely. And that's when I decided I was done responding. No more money, no texts, no polite acknowledgments. Because this wasn't just a family disagreement anymore, this was retaliation. And somewhere along the line, they stopped being angry and started being cruel. But I didn't have to play along. Let them teach me a lesson. Let them twist the story, send their flyers, call my job, exile me from holidays. Let them think they'd won. Because what they didn't realize was this: you don't get to uninvite someone from the table and still be mad when they stop bringing the food. And they were going to miss me long before I missed them. They didn't regret it right away. At first, they treated the silence like a punishment, like they were holding out, giving me space to think, to apologize, to crawl back on their terms. But I didn't. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it at my friend Jordan's place. His mom made too much food and insisted I take leftovers home. Everyone sat at one long table, no bar stools, no extras, no weird hierarchy. They even pulled in a neighbor from across the hall just because he mentioned he was spending the holiday alone. I didn't miss my family that day. Not even once. Christmas passed without a word. No text, no card, no call. They stuck to the story, I guess. I was the one who walked away, so I was the one responsible for fixing it. At least that's how they'd always played it. Then came New Year's. At 11:53 p.m., I got a text from my cousin Josh. "Felt weird without you tonight." That was it. No follow-up, just that. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, the anger had long cooled, but because I knew what this was. A test balloon. An olive branch that didn't cost anything. A few days later, I heard from Marcy again, same friend who told me about the family's whisper campaign. She said Danielle, one of my cousins, had asked Amanda why I'd really been made to sit at the bar. Amanda told her I didn't confirm I was coming. Danielle asked to see the group text. Amanda changed the subject. That's when cracks started forming. I began getting little pings, old cousins liking my photos again. One of them messaged me, "Hope you're okay. I've been thinking about you." Another cousin, the youngest of the bunch, followed me on Instagram after 2 years of nothing. It was like the tide was turning, slowly. Then one Saturday night, Amanda sent a voice note. Her voice was quiet, almost rehearsed. "Hey, so I've been thinking about everything, and I guess, yeah, things went too far. I didn't expect it to spiral like that, and I know we probably should have handled things differently. But you also didn't have to go that hard, like, it felt kind of targeted, you know." She paused, then added, "Anyway, I think we're all just under a lot of stress, and it wasn't personal." I listened to it once. Deleted it. A week later, I got an envelope in the mail. My mom's handwriting on the front, no return address, but I knew it immediately. Inside, a single photo, an old one of me and Amanda at a birthday party, maybe age 10. Taped to the back was a sticky note. "We're still family." No apology, no ownership. Just an assumption that shared blood made it all okay. I didn't write back, because by then I'd realized something that changed everything. They weren't reaching out because they were sorry. They were reaching out because I stayed silent. Because I didn't beg to be let back in. Because I didn't explain myself or yell or try to win the argument. And in that silence, they started seeing what life looked like without me. No extra chairs carried in, no help setting up, no calm voice in the chaos, no one to fix the cracks they refused to admit existed. They thought I'd come running when they shut the door, but I didn't. And now they're the ones left knocking. I hadn't heard anything in weeks after the voice note from Amanda and my mom's "We're still family" letter. It went quiet, not in a peaceful, resolved kind of way, more like everyone had retreated, recalculating. I figured maybe they'd given up, maybe the silence meant they were finally letting it die. Then 4 days ago, something weird happened. It started with a fraud alert from my bank. Late at night, I was at home half watching a documentary when the email popped up, "Suspicious login attempt detected." I opened the app, one failed login, then an attempted password reset, blocked. No money moved, just enough to raise alarms. I changed my password, enabled two-factor again, and called the fraud department just to be safe. They flagged it as a targeted attempt, nothing random. Someone was trying to get in. An hour later, Amanda called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, and the second I heard her voice, I knew something was off. "Brian, I know you probably won't answer this, but please, I didn't know what she was doing, I swear. But I think Mom tried to get into your account. Josh saw it by accident. Just call your bank again." I replayed it 3 times. Then I messaged her, "What exactly happened?" She wrote back immediately, "Mom used my Wi-Fi when she came over. Josh checked the network logs later and saw a device trying to access your bank's login page twice. It was her laptop." I confronted her. She denied it, then started crying. Crying, of course. I didn't say anything to Amanda. Instead, I contacted the bank again and filed a full report. I changed every password I could think of, checked all my financial accounts, locked down my credit file. Then I called my friend Sam, who's a lawyer. He didn't react the way I thought he would. No surprise, no dramatics. Just a quiet, "You need to document everything. Keep records, screenshots, dates. You don't know what she'll do next." And he was right. The next morning, I got an email from my mom. No subject line, just one paragraph. I was worried. "You seemed distant, like something was wrong. I just needed to know if you were okay." I thought I could check quietly. I wasn't going to do anything. I just wanted to understand. Understand what? That I was fine without them? That I wasn't broken? That I wasn't losing control? She hadn't tried to check in on me. She tried to sneak in, and she got caught. It wasn't concern, it was control. Amanda texted again that night. She knows she messed up. She's spiraling now. "I'm sorry you got dragged back into this." I didn't respond. This wasn't about a dinner anymore, or a chair, or even the money. This was what happens when people lose their grip on someone they thought would never leave, and find out too late that he already had. They lit the match, watched the bridge burn, and now they were standing on the edge wondering why I wasn't building it back. They still don't get it. I didn't walk away from them. They pushed, and I just decided not to come back.